Uh, we've been doing them every week for the past few weeks, so we're staying consistent with that. Um, we're going to move into it, and I think Matt should start off this week with his number 10 team in the NFL.
Number 10, I'm going to jump right into it. I have the New England Patriots. This is the first time they've cracked my top 10. Rob, I know you were big on them last week. You moved them into your top 10. I now have them sitting at 10. They're on a they are on a 4-game win streak. Granted, they haven't played the toughest schedule over these last 4 games, but they are on a 4-game win streak. And, my guy Mac Daddy Jones is getting the job done. The running backs are getting the job done. J.C. Jackson is one hell of a cornerback. He leads the league in interceptions since 2018. So I got New England squeaking in a 10. Now, before I let you take the mic, I did go back and forth about possibly putting our first team that has a losing record sitting at number 10 with the Indianapolis Colts, because they have been on a hot streak, and then I tweaked it a little bit and I decided to stay with New England.
Yeah, I thought about the Colts as well. They have been much improved, as I said earlier, when we were talking about, possibly benching Carson Wentz at some point this year. Thought about cracking them into my top 10, but I did move a new team into my top 10 this week, which I don't think is going to be in your top 10, but I think they're a very different team when they're healthy, particularly at running back, and that is the Cleveland Browns, who absolutely dog walked Cincinnati from start to finish of that game in Cincinnati. When they have Nick Chubb in the backfield, that offense is completely different. And I think that was highlighted this past week. And I think right now, with the healthy running back, they are the 10th best team in football.
It's tough.
And at 9,
it's tough for
I
me.
have New England.
It's tough for me to even have a conversation about AFC North teams right now, because we watched Cincinnati blow out Baltimore, then we watched Cincinnati lose to the Jets, and then we watched Cincinnati get blown out by Cleveland, and then we watched Cleveland lose a 5-point game to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who should have lost last night to the Bears. So it's the AFC North is all up in the air.
When you get down towards this 10 spot, as of right now, we're not talking about super great teams.
Completely agree.
I don't think Cleveland is fantastic right now. I just think that they're a little bit more decent than a bunch of the other teams that are right around the same skill level as them. I think with a healthy Nick Chubb, they could use their physicality and their ability to just run the ball down your throat to control a lot of games and get a lot of wins against some of these other teams right now. So that's why they cracked my top 10. And the team you had at 10, the New England Patriots, I had at 10 last week, and I moved them up to number 9 this week. Like you said, they haven't played necessarily the strongest schedule, but they are getting it done. And it's not like they're, keeping these games close. They absolutely destroyed Carolina this last weekend. So I like what they're doing. They got Belichick. He's putting a good game plan together. He's not asking Mac Jones to do too much. He's, playing to the strengths of his football team, and it's got him a half game out of the AFC East division lead. They're 5-4. Buffalo's 5-3. So they're vying not only for a playoff spot, because they would be number 7 and squeak into the playoffs today if the season ended. By the end of the season, if Buffalo doesn't get their act together, they could be the division winner. And have a home playoff game. And nobody wants to go to Gillette and play. I don't care what team it is. You do not want to go to Gillette and play Bill Belichick in the playoffs. Not something anybody would be looking forward to on their schedule. So I like New England at number 9. Who did you have here at number 9, Matt?
At 9, I have a team that's probably going to fall out of my top 10 next week because they just got done playing the Eagles. And it seems like every team that goes and beats the Eagles the next week, they lose because they actually play a defense that doesn't allow them to throw for 80%. So at 9, I have the Los Angeles Chargers right now. It was a good bounce back game for the Chargers coming off of a loss to New England, who I have sitting at 10, who you have at 9. I thought they looked really well defensively. Offensively, you're going to look great against the Philadelphia Eagles. Jonathan Gannon doesn't know what he's doing. But the big thing that I noticed with the Chargers offense, not that Herbert could complete 80% of his passes, but how good the offensive line was to keep the Eagles from getting a single sack throughout the whole game. And if you can keep Justin Herbert upright all game long, you have a chance at winning games. So the way that the offensive line played, and with them being 5-3 tied for, the lead in the AFC West, I got to go ahead and give the Chargers the knock at 9.
So the Chargers, my comment there is they're sitting on the outside of my top 10 looking in. The two teams I was between at 10 were Cleveland and the Chargers. So the way I looked at that is if they played today on a neutral site, who do I think would win? And I do believe it would be Cleveland because the Chargers' run defense is awful. And that might be
in the league.
Being a little too nice. They are abysmal. They cannot stop anybody from running the ball, and Cleveland's strength is running the ball. So I think if they played today, Cleveland would literally just pound the rock, eat clock, and Justin Herbert would almost turn into a non-factor because he wouldn't be on the field. And that's why I put Cleveland just above them. I do think the Chargers have some talent, but, man, they got to figure out some way to at least slow the run down a little bit.
Yeah, well, you remember when they played earlier in the year, it was 103 to 102. So,
yeah,
you don't know how often you're going to get that kind of game out of both teams.
Yeah, that's why I got them on the outside looking in right now. I think they got to get it together a little bit there defensively because, like I said, if you can consistently pound the rock on them, then Justin Herbert becomes less and less of a factor. The more time you could spend running the ball, the more time he has to sit on the sideline. So that's, I think, the formula to beat them, and I think New England and Cleveland could both do that. That's why I have them in over them.
All right, at 8, I have a team that has not been this low, and that would be the Buffalo Bills. The offense of the Buffalo Bills the last 2 weeks have been terrible. The defense has played really well the last 2 weeks. But boy, this offense is bad. Lose a 9-6 game to Jacksonville. You won 26-11 to the Dolphins after being shut out for 3 quarters or held to 3 points over 3 quarters against the Dolphins, and then you score 6 against the Jaguars. You're not playing powerhouse defenses, and their offense is taking way too long to get it going. I know you and I text during the game. You said this reminds you of the Kansas City Chiefs team. They're going to turn it on. They're going to win the game, and then they ended up losing the game. Brian DeBall needs to do a better job of mixing in the run. I know that they're not running the ball great, but there's got to be some push. When push comes to shove, they got to be able to do something here on the run or on the ground to help Josh Allen and, hopefully get this offense going again.
So I also have the Buffalo Bills at 8 for many of the same reasons. It's definitely not their defense, which is kind of weird to say with the weapons they have on offense. They still have the second best points differential in the league, only second to Arizona. So I mean, they were blowing people out before the bye week. I mean, points were coming at a premium, and then they went on the bye week. And normally teams come out of the bye even stronger, and they've come out of the bye like they're still on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what's going on. McDermott and DeBall need to get it together up there. I still think they're a good team. That's why they're still in the top 10. Like you said, they have not been this low for me. Last week was previously the lowest I had them, and last week I had them at 5. So, I mean, I dropped them all the way down 3 spots. I still think head-to-head, if it came down to it, they could beat a New England, they could beat a Cleveland, they could beat a Chargers team. I think part of what I'm seeing with this Buffalo team, too, is a tendency to play down to their competition instead of stepping on their competition's throats. So I'm interested to see what goes on with them. These next few games, I do, obviously looking to see that offense turn around. And maybe it happens this week. They're playing the Jets, so there's a chance that they could just hang 40 on the Jets, or do they put up 6 points again and get beat by the damn Jets? I mean, I gotta see. Josh Allen still has like 2,200 yards and I think 17 touchdowns to 5 picks on the year, so still playing pretty well. Their problem has been, as you have alluded to for a few weeks now, a lack of a consistent run game, and I have agreed, but I thought that they would be able to overcome it, and these past few weeks, it's been a detriment to them. So I need to see them back. Hopefully they'll bounce back and play up to the talent that is on that roster, but right now I agree with you. They got to be down here at 8.
All right, what do you got at 7?
At 7, I have, coming off a very ugly loss to the Denver Broncos,
Jesus.
the Dallas Cowboys.
Do we got the same power rankings here?
I don't know, man. Last week I had Dallas ranked number 2. Obviously able to admit when I'm wrong. Definitely wrong. I do believe part of it was, Dak came back after sitting out, so it had been 2 weeks since he played. He looked, rusty at best. Put up a bunch of stats at the end of the game in garbage time. So I'm not really impressed with the stats that he did end up getting, but that Dallas team is going to live or die by Dak Prescott's play. So he's got to get it together this week and hope, they may be able to bounce back. Again, this is they're kind of in the same boat as the Bills right now. So they're another team at this point that I want to see what they do this weekend and, and next week and see how they look. They get, they have an Falcons team coming in to Jerry World this weekend. So, again, just like, not the toughest opponent, it does give them an opportunity bounce back game here. So, I'm excited to see what they can. So, obviously, from the sounds of it, you also have Dallas at 7.
I do have the Cowboys at 7, and I know I've been getting a lot from you, calling me a hater because I haven't cracked the top 3 with the Dallas Cowboys yet this year. And what they shown on Sunday was that they should not be in the top 3 of any power ranking. Yes, they go as far as Dak Prescott allows them to go offensively, but defensively, I had pointed out for the last several weeks, they go as far as turnovers take them. And when they do not cause turnovers and their penalties stay at a high, it does not matter how good Dak Prescott plays or how bad Dak Prescott plays. Yesterday was the 4th time this season, or Sunday was the 4th time this season that Trayvon Diggs has had a PRR, right? Pro Focus or PFG, whatever the hell you want to call it. PFG, PRR, they call it all different things. His Pro Focus rating for Sunday's game was under 40 for the 4th time this season. And he did not come away with a takeaway, and there was no turnovers by Denver, and they allowed Teddy Bridgewater to look like Teddy Bridgewater from Louisville. So I am not sold at all on this Dallas team. I know a lot of people are saying, it's one game. They're a Super Bowl talented team. Yeah, they are talented, But Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys, a.k.a. Jerry Jones, will not win another playoff game because they just don't know how to do it, and they seem to always shoot themselves in the foot. So I have them sitting at 7, and this loss is going to be more meaningful than I think people are going to realize later on in the season, when I think they might go on a little bit of a slope at some point coming up. But from jumping from the Cowboys, going over to 6, I have the Baltimore Ravens. They're 2-1 in overtime games this year, and Lamar Jackson has been somebody that I was vocal about early on in the show, talking about how he is a possible MVP. He should be a candidate. He did lead them back from 14 to win the game against the Minnesota Vikings, but the Minnesota Vikings, to me, aren't that great of a team. They are sitting here at 6-2. They lead the division. The big thing that I continuously look at with Baltimore is when we get into crunch time, late in the game, late in the season, can Lamar Jackson win with his arm? And until he proves to me in a playoff game or in a game against one of the 5 teams I have above him, he can make a run with his arm to win a game, I could possibly see them move up. Now, that's not saying if, 1 through 5 lose, I'm going to sit here and say, oh, Ravens got to stay at 6. But right now, the Ravens are the 6th best team in football.
Great minds think alike, bud, because I also have Baltimore at 6. They're definitely improving, looking a little bit better as some of these other teams that were in front of them start to have some bad games as well. They were at 8th in my power ranking last week, so I bumped them up 2 spots. Lamar, I have the same concerns as you. I need to see him do more in the playoffs. He scares me in the playoffs a little bit. I also would like to see... I just don't know who the consistent second best weapon on that team is after Lamar. In streaks it looks like Hollywood Brown, in streaks it looks like Mark Andrews, and then they both have streaks where they completely disappear. So I don't know, who is his go-to guy. It seems like the go-to guy is just Lamar. And I want to see one of them guys step up and be just a little bit more consistent this year. Before I crack them into the top 5. And speaking of starting the top 5, I'm going to start it off. Number 5, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the obvious reasons, the team has been good. Tom Brady looks ridiculous. I don't even know how he's doing it at his age. They're still a little bit banged up, so I'm apropos to move them ahead of the 4 teams that I have in front of them right now because of health issues, especially in their secondary. I think makes them more vulnerable to the teams that I have in front of them in the top 4. So that's why I'm putting them at 5, but that is up a spot from last week, so they're cracked back into my top 5. So with that, Matt, who do you have sitting at 5 on your chart?
Well, if you couldn't tell, I'm a big sigh. I got Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so it looks like we did a little bit of a group project here. Tampa had the bye week. I had them slotted all the way down to 6 before the bye week last week. I'm not expecting them to jump up unless all 5 teams in front lost. Which only one of them did. Technically 2. But pretty much the big concern, like you have said, is the defense and how is that secondary going to continuously hold up when they have injuries to that secondary, and you don't know exactly what you're getting. Now, this is going to sound odd, but I don't know exactly what you're getting each week offensively with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team because of the injuries. One week it's
Yeah.
Gronkowski, the next week it's Antonio Brown. Now it's back to Gronkowski and Antonio Brown. There's been reports about Evans being hurt. You know, a week from now, this could be a Tampa Bay team that runs the ball 40 times. So, you know, that's a big concern to me. It's the injuries. It's not so much the play of the team, which have them slided at 5. I'm going to keep them at 5 for now. Jumping from Tampa, going into 4. Hoping we have a different 4 here. I have the Los Angeles Rams coming off of a ugly loss to Tennessee on Sunday night. Stafford did not look good. The defense did not look good. Stafford ended up throwing 2 picks, one of them being a pick 6, the other one being inside the 10-yard line. You know, Tennessee really got to the quarterback Sunday night. Stafford played terrible when the blitz came, and when he was under pressure, he didn't look like Matt Stafford early on in the year. You know, the big thing with this Rams team is kind of like the Bills team, where we're not getting the same kind of, we're getting a little bit more of a run factor from the Rams than we do from the Bills. But the run factor hasn't been as good as a lot of people thought it was going to be with Henderson and Sony Michel. And eventually I feel like teams are going to start realizing that, and they're going to start playing more zone, and they're going to stop putting 6-7 in the box. And when that happens, you know, we saw it when he was with Detroit. Stafford, he is a very talented quarterback, but one thing I've always said about Stafford is he does not understand how to read defenses at the highest levels. So when you start adding in some zones and, you know, you throw a blitz in there and you're running man and you start disguising certain things, you could easily stop Stafford from beating you. And with the way that the run game's been with the Rams, you know, that might be all you need to elevate yourself over them and get the win.
Well, unfortunate news for you. We really did do a group project because I also have the Rams at number 4. Last week I had them at 3, but like you just stated, they got beat soundly by Tennessee this weekend. Tennessee pushed them around physically on both sides of the ball, which is not something I necessarily expected to happen at all in that game. Obviously, Matt Stafford didn't look good. Most quarterbacks, when they're under as much pressure as he was under all day, would also look terrible. So I'm not necessarily holding that against him. I do agree with you that, you know, he does have some deficiencies in his game. No quarterback is perfect like that, but they still have a ton of talent. Side note, Cooper Kupp is the first receiver since Jerry Rice to have 10 touchdowns and 1,000 yards in 9 games. He's been super impressive this year. If he can continue to put up the numbers he's putting up, he's another guy that kind of needs to be talking about for the MVP. He's looked ridiculously good and been super productive all year for the Rams. I know he'll never win it because he's a wide receiver, but at least an honorable mention. But yeah, the Rams need to get me a win over a quality opponent. They've lost Arizona. Now they've lost to Tennessee. I need to see them step up a little bit in some of these bigger games to get back into that top 3 on my tier list. Again, though, lucky for them, like a lot of these teams that are in the top 10 that are coming off losses, you know, they get to play a Niners team on Monday Night Football in San Francisco. That could be a nice bounce back game for them. San Francisco has not looked good this year. So maybe, you know, they can get some stuff together against this Niners team, pick up a win and bounce back this weekend. But I have them at 4 as well, and I flip-flopped them with my number 4 from last week, which was the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have the best points differential in football. They have moved in front of the Bills in that category. They got an impressive win with their backup quarterback, like we talked about earlier. and the team is loaded with a good amount of talent. I do think we've seen the J.J. Watt injury cause a little bit more of an impact to their defense than people probably would have thought because he hasn't had flashy numbers, but he has been a solid contributor on that defensive line, and I think he added an element of physicality up front to them in the run game that they have lacked a little bit since he got hurt. So that's the only reason that they are not one of my top two teams right now. But what are your thoughts? Who is your number 3 team right now, Matt?
Can you guess my number 3 team?
The Arizona Cardinals?
The Arizona Cardinals are my number 3 team. It was very impressive to see them go to San Francisco, like I've stated, and beat a San Francisco 49ers team. Now the 49ers are ass. I've been saying this for years, not weeks, years. What Sunday showed was that this team is more than Kyler Murray, and that makes Kyler Murray so much more important to this team. In a sense,
Yep.
This Cardinals team is so good that Kyler Murray makes them scary good. Like that.
Yeah.
That's the conversation you have when you talk Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, and then you have a conversation about, I don't know, Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson is probably the most valuable player on his team. He does everything. You lose Lamar Jackson, that Baltimore team is terrible. You lose Aaron Rodgers and you lose Kyler Murray for a week. Other players' games elevate, and you saw the elevation in the Arizona game, and you saw the elevation with the Green Bay Packers. Yes, the Packers lost, but they look damn good defensively. So with Arizona, yes, they are the only one-loss team in football. Yes, I have them third. Yes, they won with a backup quarterback. But Arizona, to me, is the third best team in football, even with Kyler Murray. If these 3 teams are fully healthy, my 1, 2, and Arizona, if they all 3 are fully healthy, Arizona is the third best team in my power rankings. And to me, I believe Arizona is better than the Rams right now.
Yes, I agree. If you're talking fully healthy, like they could get J.J. Watt back from a time machine,
Fully healthy.
They would. I think they probably would be 1 or 2 for me. But knowing that you're not getting J.J. Watt back, you are losing that physicality up front a little bit. I do think they're just below the top 2 teams. Which at number 2, who do you have, Matt?
I'm hoping we flip-flopped here because 1 and 2 here are a coin toss. It's either heads or tails. You know, at 2, I have the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
All right, we got different teams finally. All right, so at 2,
We did not copy each other.
all right, at
We
2,
swear.
at 2, I have the Green Bay Packers. You know, they are coming off of a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week I did have them number 1. I did move them down to 2 only because of the team I moved to 1 looked so much better than the Green Bay Packers. So the Green Bay Packers looked very sound defensively, as I stated multiple times this show. You know, holding the Kansas City Chiefs to 13 points when you have a backup quarterback out there, so you're expecting Kansas City to have more possessions, and you're able to stop that offense and hold them to 13 and give Jordan Love the opportunity to win that game, says a lot. And I do believe when Aaron Rodgers comes back, which I'm hoping is this weekend in Seattle, if they could, this is the key. I need this Green Bay team to piece all of this together. This Green Bay team, yes, looks good. But why is it that the Green Bay Packers look good defensively when Aaron Rodgers is out? They look good running the ball offensively when they're missing 3 running backs. And their defense played a hell of a game. But when everybody's healthy and when everybody's in the locker room, they lose a game 38-3. They lose. What was the other game they lost? The game they just lost. And, they've had a few games this year where it's gone back and forth. One game that sticks right out to me is the Cincinnati game. That game went back and forth for 8 minutes in overtime. It's just, this Packers team hasn't shown me that they could do it consistently. And it's bad when they can't do it consistently when everybody's healthy or when everybody's eligible to play. That's why I have them at 2.
Okay. I can see the points you make there. At number 2, I have the Tennessee Titans. I just can't put them above my number 1 team without Derrick Henry. They had Derrick Henry. They'd probably be at number 1 right now. Their defense over the last 3 weeks, like I touched on earlier, has looked incredible, especially compared to what it looked like early on this year. So I'm giving them a lot of kudos. They are my number 1 mover of the week. If you recall, because of the Derrick Henry injury, I rated them number 9 last week, and I said that they could skyrocket up if they showed me something without Derrick Henry, and they showed me a lot without Derrick Henry. So I'm giving them their credit now. They are the number 2 team in football. The defense has stepped up the past few weeks, stepped up again yesterday. They found ways to score yesterday without Derrick Henry. So I'm impressed. I just think that there's one team that they couldn't beat head-to-head right now. And for me, that's the Green Bay Packers, who you had at number 2. Just when I think about that game right now, being that they don't have Derrick Henry, I look at that and I go, Green Bay's defense is playing just as out of their minds as Tennessee's. I think they have better receivers than Tennessee. Without
Oh no, did we lose Rob here? Alright, so while we're waiting on Rob to get back at 1, I have the Tennessee Titans, if you weren't able to tell. I am very high on this Tennessee Titans team. They played ridiculously well against the Los Angeles Rams. They've played well almost all season. They looked good in crunch time against the Indianapolis Colts. Theoretically, you've been playing without Derrick Henry for 2 games now, as that injury happened in the first quarter of the Colts game, and he ended up playing the whole game, and he did not look like Derrick Henry by any standards. So you're 2-0 in a sense without Derrick Henry. The defense has stepped up. Tannehill, turns into the game manager, and he has to stay the game manager and continue to allow the defense to win these football games. And he can't step out of his comfort zone and try to be Aaron Rodgers or Patty Mahomes or Tom Brady. We don't need Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball 400 times or for 400 yards a game. We just need Ryan Tannehill to game manage, and that's what he did Sunday night against the Rams. If he can continue to do that and the defense continues to play the way that they've played the last few weeks, this Tennessee team could be the team in the AFC for the Super Bowl. So that wraps up our power rankings. Rob has Tennessee at 2. I have Tennessee 1. I have Green Bay 2. Rob has Green Bay 1. We both have Arizona 3. So that rounds out our top 3. I do want to do something.
I think we both believe